free from the mainstream, the studio machine. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation. Going all the way. Indie Film Nation. You know it's gotta be Indie Film Nation. Indie Film Nation.
Hi, it's Mike Smith with another edition of Indie Film Nation. On today's program, we have the very special guest Gareth Edwards, all the way from the United Kingdom. And how are you today, Gareth?
The honest answer is a little bit jet lagged, but I'm doing all right.
All right, we're here to talk about your fantastic film Monsters, and I'd just like to know, firstly, because it's such a unique story and the setting of it for a sci-fi film, but was it concept driven or story written when you originally come up with the idea for the project?
No, it's definitely concept first. It was the first thing that happened is I basically, my background was visual effects, computer graphics. I'd always wanted to be a filmmaker, and I kind of got sidetracked in doing that because I thought, well, if I learn how to use this software, one day, I'll be able to use computer graphics to, if no one comes along and gives me a load of money to make a movie, I could at least go and make one on my own one day. And I thought it would take like a few months, and it took more like a decade to get kind of good enough at using the stuff. And so I was just always hunting for what would be a good debut film where you could shoot a lot of it in camera, but you could stick certain things in the computer and create a world. And there's some obvious things that spring to mind, and a monster movie is one of them. And I just kind of was trying to look for a different angle on it than what normally you see. And I was on holiday, and these fishermen were pulling something in from the ocean into their boat, and I thought, okay, imagine a monster on this and cutting around the guys and rotoscoping their hands, and how hard would that be? And the guys that were doing it, they obviously couldn't see the CGI thing I was imagining, and carried on like this was normal. And I thought, that's quite interesting. Yeah, what if a monster movie where at the begins where most monster movies normally end, when life carries on, and so it's like if King Kong or Cloverfield or something, if that's September 11th, our film's more like Afghanistan, when it's years later and everyone's used to it and no one cares, and so there's this part of the world where these creatures are, and I just that's what I pitched to the producers, and it was sort of green-lit based on that, and then it was like, oh my god, what the hell's the story, and who are the characters, and the rest came afterwards.
And with that afterwards part, how difficult was it to write the story, and how much, when you've gone to Mexico and the locations that you shot in, how much was the actual story, how much of the script was written before you got to those locations, and how much did it change when you finally got to your actual locations?
Yeah, I'd say that I didn't write a script. What I wrote was a paragraph for each scene, and even then it was a case of like laying out the story. It looked like, having never written a script properly before, it was kind of, well, it feels like there's physical things that happen to the characters, and then there's emotional things. And I guess normally you'd bolt them together. Like you'd say, oh, you have that conversation about this when you're in the bus station or something. And for me, it was like, well, I don't know if the bus station is going to be too claustrophobic or it's going to be too empty, like to have an intimate conversation. And so it felt like because we were being so guerrilla, like in the way we were filming it, it felt like so what I did is I kept them separate, so that basically I printed on black ink the physical things that happen to the characters, and then on blue ink the emotional things. And then what happened is we'd be driving around Central America in a van, like a tiny crew, and we'd see a cool location and we'd jump out, pick a scene that could work, that was physical things, and then we'd look through the emotional things that we could bring up that we felt appropriate. And so a lot of it was one of those things that's kind of written, obviously you write it before you go and shoot it, and then we rewrote it as we were on the road shooting it, and then we rewrote it again when we were in the edit cutting it. So it just kept evolving the whole time. It was very, it was good because we had producers that were very supportive of this, let's discover the film as we make it, as opposed to, it's got to be this is what we agreed sort of thing.
One of the things that was really strong about the film, other than the visual effects were so believable, but the universe that we find the characters in was so strong. And Was that something the locations really helped elevate it, and or was it something you had to do a lot of pre-planning and storyboarding? How did it come about? Because that was one of the real strengths of the film, the believability.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I think a lot of that comes from the fact we went to a real place with real people and really filmed real things. So it's all I did was change little bits, like the signs, all the signage in the film, like use Photoshop, and so instead of like a hamburger menu, it's a map of the infected zone, or instead of like an advert for water, a drink, you know, it would be a warning sign about the creatures. And so you just change these little details, but you get for free, you get all this random texture and real reality that happens when you travel to an exotic location. And so it was, I feel like the believability of the world is mainly because Guatemala and Mexico and Belize and Costa Rica and all these places we went to are real places, and it doesn't look like a green screen approach. It looks like these people are really going about their lives, and I think that really helped the movie.
And the actual production of the film, how long were you shooting for? And what was the camera that you shot on? And just for our techie people, what was the rig that you used, and what gear did you actually take out in these locations?
So we shot it about 2 years ago now, and it was I did a lot of research, and the best rig I kind of felt was the best thing for quality at plus like being guerrilla, and just fitting it on a shoulder was it was a Sony EX3. And it had a Litus Ultimate adapter on the front, so we could have the narrow depth of field. And specifically, we used Nikon SLR lens, 50mm mainly, with 1.2 aperture, I think. But whereas like now you're shooting this interview on Canon cameras, so now if I was to shoot it today, I'd reassess what would be the right kit. And I've bought a Canon 5D. And the only issue really is focus, because in our film, like, it's fine on a small monitor, but when you blow it up on the big screen, if you want a cinema release one day, if you get your ear in focus, because to me the whole point of having this technology is because you get that narrow depth of field. Like, it doesn't look like video anymore; it looks like beautiful 35mm. So I've got the aperture wide open to get that real crushed depth of field, so the background's thrown out of focus. But if I don't get your eyes in focus and I get your ear, it's really annoying when you watch it on the big screen. And so the EX3 came with this peaking monitor. It's like the Terminator. You see like a red rim around anything you're focusing on, so you can suddenly see. And so for me, when I'm filming the actors during these intimate scenes, they've got these demon eyes, these red eyes, because the highlights are glowing red, and I know that their eyes are therefore in focus, and so I can be relaxed about it. But if you haven't got that, you really are kind of slightly at the mercy of, like, is this in focus? Is this going to look really bad when it's on the big screen? And I think it's too big a risk, because it's kind of nearly unusable if you don't get it spot on. And it's one of the things that audiences don't forgive you if it's out of focus.
This is the camera we're filming on. I was just saying that what's happened to this camera is kind of like a physical version of what's happened to the film a little bit, in that the original premise was to just go with a tiny camera and just shoot really guerrilla style and not make a big deal of anything, spend very little money, just go make the movie. But so originally this was the camera here, this bit, but to make it look like 35mm like cinema, we've put this special adapter on the front, and this is an SLR lens like you get with a Nikon or a Canon kind of on the front there. So this is basically like an SLR camera, this bit here, that you'd sort of take film photographs with. And all that's going on is this camera here is videoing that film image, which means everything looks sexier and more cinematic. It's got a narrower depth of field, so if I'm filming someone, then the background is out of focus.
And the casting of the film, Scoot McNairy and Whitney Abel, how did you come to cast them in the role? And their actual performance was fantastic. How much credit does the director take for that, and it's in particular working with this, not a traditional script?
I take none whatsoever. They say that as a director, like the art of performance, there's like I don't know. It's like they say the three most important things for a director is like casting, or whatever it is. And I think it's true. It's like if you get the right people, then the hardest job is kind of done. It's not. The hardest job is way ahead of you, But it did feel that way. It felt like, I mean, I wanted some genuine chemistry, so stupidly, in the early stages, I thought I'd get a real couple, because then the chemistry would be like genuine. And Scoot and Whitney, basically we saw Scoot in a low budget film called In Search of Midnight Kiss, but it looked really great and he was amazing in it. And so yeah, it was a case of I wanted a genuine couple, and I was like, I don't want to use just an actor on his own, but he did come across really well. And they said, oh, he then contacted us and said at one point during a conversation, oh, but my girlfriend's an actress. And he sent through her picture and she was gorgeous. Like, I think he sent through a link to an FHM or a GQ kind of photo shoot. And I was like, no, I don't want to use her. She's like too perfect. That's like what Hollywood does. And we didn't want to make a Hollywood type movie, even though the marketing and the trailers kind of imply it is. We wanted to do something more subtle than that. And so the idea was to, yeah, I just thought, no, I don't want her. And then I went and met her, and when you see her without makeup on, she's pretty rough. So she's really nice. She's a beautiful girl, and she's so not the person you think you're going to meet. And so I just thought, I watched, basically slept 5 days on their sofa, and we didn't fall out or anything. We played board games and went drinking and stuff, and it was more of a test, like, could we all get along? Because when we did the shoot, it was so claustrophobic. We're in the middle of the jungle, so we had to make sure that we weren't going to have any personality clashes and stuff.
Huge.
I thought I'd be a lot happier to see it. Like, I feel like I could cry, but I don't know if it would be a happy cry or a sad cry.
It's different looking at America from the outside. And, just sitting right outside and looking in.
And with the actual editing of the film, obviously with the script and the process that you went through, how long were you editing? And did you edit first, or did you do the special effects or the after effects and all that after the editing? What happened with the actual post-production path with it?
Yeah, we edited for about 8 months in total, because we had all this random kind of very sort of documentary style footage, in that it wasn't the same take over and over. It was just random pieces that so it took quite a while to edit it, in terms of getting the film to the exact film we wanted to release. And in terms of visual effects, it was 5 months of visual effects work. There was 250 shots in the film. Had to do them all sort of from home. But it's a bit of a chicken and egg, because you don't want to be doing any visual effects until you've picture locked, because you're just wasting your time. But then you can't picture lock until you see what the effects look like, because a lot of decisions about duration of shots are on the rhythm of movement from here to here, especially with creature stuff. You didn't want kind of this sense of a creature, like, doing a shot like this, and the creature's going past, and it cuts short, and it hasn't kind of got to the edge of frame where it would then naturally want to cut out. And so you have to you need a crude version of what you're going to put in there, to be able to make decisions about timing and stuff. And so I put crude versions in for some of them, and then that's scary, because then producers see the crude version and they get worried, is that the final version? No, it's going to look better than that. How much better? And this sort of conversation takes place. So you can't really win. In the end, you just have to go, just block it all out, and just know that, you're going to have this period of time to polish all the effects later. And we even had text up of where the creature does this, or helicopter or tank. And what was surprising is the film was quite watchable with just text. It actually, I kind of feel like you could make a film that's just got text in it. Like, do it as a stage play with no background and just put text where you need to see things. It kind of does work after about 5 minutes.
Well, we've got limited time with you, and that time has expired. Firstly, congratulations on the film, and all the best with your future career. We look forward to watching it. And do you have a blog that people can follow you at, or
No, my biggest regret ever is joining Facebook. So I've kind of stayed off Twitter, and I've stayed off all those sort of things, because I'm rubbish at even replying to emails. You get so busy. You get so busy making a film, like you have zero free time and promoting it and everything. And I just don't want to come across as rude to people by not getting back to things. And so I just kind of the more I stay off that, the better, I think.
Yeah. And where can people find out about Monsters? Is a website for the film?
There is, and it is monstersthemovie.com.au.
Thank you very much, Gareth, and thanks for making such a brilliant film.
Oh, no, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
All I want is to get back to America. I'm just asking you to help me out here.
Very difficult journey, very risky, very dangerous. You have the money, you take the risk.
Look at this!
What'd you find, Cortez? What is that?